When I started in model railroading, I realized there is a lot, and I mean a lot, to learn. It was part of the reason why I actually started this channel. I've done a lot of videos on things to learn and different techniques and all these different terminology and everything, but I've never condensed it into one single video. Well, here you go. Hey everybody, my name's Jimmy. I'm drinking just some more store brand coffee today. I really got to vary this up at some point. But if you want to tell me what kind of coffee you're drinking and have it featured just like these guys right here below, you can leave that in the comments below. Cheers, guys. There are a ton of things to learn and know about model railroading, and I'm not going to get to every single one in this video. That would be a very, very long video. But I'm going to go over as many as I can think of just to give you the basics and get you started. Now, I'm not going to do anything specific with scenery. That's a whole nother animal, and I'll probably do another one of these videos just like this one, just for scenery. So let's go ahead and start into things you must know for model railroading to get started. The first is the biggest thing, or the smallest thing, depending on the way you look at it, when you're starting model railroading, and that is scale. Scale is basically the size of the model trains. Now, there are many different standards for scale. Some of the most commons are HO, or 1 to 87, N, or 1 to 160, Z, or 1 to 220. That's the smallest of the readily available, commercially available scales, that is. O, which is 1 to 48, and G, which is around 1 to 24, but there's a lot of them right there around there that are slightly different variations on that. Now, there are several variants, not just in G scale, but also in other scales as well. But that's going to bring us to our next topic, which is gauge. You may hear the terms scale and gauge used at similar times. The difference is that while scale is just the size of the models in relation to their real-life counterparts, gauge is the width of the track between the rails. You can have trains running on the same scale, running on different gauges of track. Examples of this is ON30, which is O scale narrow gauge, which runs on HO gauge track, HON3, which is HO scale with narrow gauge track, and G gauge track is used for multiple scales, including 1/32nd, 1/29th, 1/24th, and 120.5. Now, the next thing you're going to hear about track is code. Code is basically, if track gauge is the width between the rails, code is the height of the rail. You may hear code 100 or code 83 or code 55. These are the height of rails in thousandths of an inch. So code 100th is 101,000th, or a tenth of an inch tall. Tracks are mostly made of metal because trains are powered by electricity. Usually tracks are made of material like nickel silver. There are steel tracks and brass tracks as well. Now, there's two main power methods for most model trains: direct current, or DC, and digital command and control, or DCC. DC has been around the longest and relies on varying the voltage supplied to the track to power the electric motors in the trains. Digital command and control was invented in the 1980s and supplies a constant voltage to the track and sends varied pulses to control the trains. The pulses are created by a command station, and locomotives have a decoder in them that can understand those pulses. Now, DC is less expensive, but DCC allows for more features and is simpler to wire on larger layouts. There are other power methods. Bluetooth is making its way into the hobby. Some trains have a dedicated remote control and just get the raw power from the rails, and some are even actually powered by things like steam. There are actual model steam locomotives out there. Let's get into locomotive types. Now, of course, you're thinking of the choices between steam and diesel and those electric locomotives as well. But the main choices you will have in terms of the models is standard DC, DCC ready, DCC equipped, and DCC sound equipped. These are basically the four different tiers of also price for model railroad locomotives. DC is simply powering by varying the voltage, as we said before, and they just have a motor in there that gets its power from the track and runs one direction or the other. DCC ready is the same, but is built with a socket or slot for a DCC decoder to be placed easily in there without any soldering or rewiring. DCC Equipped has that decoder already installed, and Sound Equipped has a decoder and speaker that can make sounds to mimic the real sounds of the locomotive. Rolling stock is a term that covers all the cars that make up a train. So if you're just starting out, just kind of buy whatever you like. So you're thinking of like box cars, flat cars, hopper cars, gondolas, cabooses, passenger cars, things like this. As long as it's the same scale, just buy whatever you like when you're starting out. Now, one thing you want to make sure is that your couplers are compatible. If you're buying older used equipment, they may have older style couplers. For instance, HO Scale had the hook and loop couplers, and N-Scale had the Rapido couplers before they both got the knuckle couplers that they have now in most modern N and HO Scale locomotives. So just make sure those are compatible. If they are not, you can swap out couplers and full on the trucks of the rolling stock. So companies that make those parts are Micro Trains for N-Scale and KD for HO Scale. There are other companies, but those are two of the biggest ones right there. They're going to have the widest variety. For track design, you're probably just going to start with a simple loop. We've all been there, but the sky is the limit and the space that you have in the room that you're building in. Now, I've done a whole video on track design because it has a lot of different things, and that's going to be linked at the end of this video. There's a lot of terminology out there that you may not be familiar with, but I'm going to go over a couple of them that you may see a lot and be like, what does that mean? The first is turnout numbers. Now, switches are called turnouts or points, depending on what part of the world you are in. These may have numbers on them like number 4, number 5, number 6. These numbers represent the ratio for how much one track diverges from another. For example, a number 4 diverges 1 inch for every 4 inches of travel. You will also see turnouts that are set to a radius of track as well. These usually are these are usually sometimes called snap switches. They come with set track and things like that. Road names are something that you can sort by on most online model railroad shops, and those are simply just the names of the railroads. So think about Union Pacific, Santa Fe, CSX, New York Central, Norfolk Southern. There's a lot of them out there. There's more than I can count, that is for sure, but that's what a road name is. It's just the name of the railroad that is on the locomotive or the piece of rolling stock. Okay, you are ready to jump in and get started in the hobby of model railroading. First of all, let me just tell you, welcome to the world's greatest hobby. It is awesome here. The big thing I want to tell you about shopping for model trains is that unless it's your only option, steer clear of Amazon. It's definitely not going to be the cheapest place to buy trains, not by a long shot. Your best option is to go to your local model train shop if you're lucky enough to have a local one, and shop at online model railroad retailers if you don't. Some of the ones that I have bought from are Train World, Model Train Stuff, Lombard Hobbies, Yankee Dabbler, and Train Life. There's a bunch of other great ones out there, and I plan on trying a lot more out here soon. Now, model trains also has a vast used market. This hobby has been around for well over a century. So for this, I would look at places like Trains with a Z, .com. I also like Model Train Market, just bought a used locomotive from there, and eBay is a really great place to look as well. There's also a lot of hobby shops who have a big presence on eBay as well. One that I order a lot from on eBay is Iron Planet Hobbies. I've done quite a few videos that dive deeper on everything that I've talked about here, and I made an entire playlist of all those videos, and you can check it out here. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope it got enough information out there. There's so much more when you get into the hobby. If there's anything else that you would like to add to this, put it in the comments below. This is going to be hopefully a reference to a lot of people getting started in the hobby. So thank you all so much for watching. Until next time, I'm Jimmy from the DIY and Digital. Stay safe, be kind, drink some coffee, and happy railroading.